To kick off episode 2, we are going to go through all of the transfers that happened in season 2, starting off with Divock Origi. He was the first player to leave the club in season 2. He had completed his loan deal at Notts Forest, came back to the club. It was clear he didn't have a future here, so we allowed him to move to Al Tawoun. The next player to leave was David Calabria. This wasn't a player that I actually intended to sell. Tottenham came along with a bid of around £45 million. He turned his head, he wanted to go. I wasn't going to keep an unhappy player, so we allowed the deal to go through. He's off to London. The next player to leave the club was Alexis Salamakers. He wasn't a player that was going to get into my first 11. He was just a rotation piece. Monaco offered us around £10 million, so not the most, but with the transfer budget being pretty pitiful from the end of season 1, we needed to get as much money in to start rebuilding the team as we could. So he was allowed to go to Monaco. That meant that we could start rebuilding, and the first player that we brought in was Lorenzo Luca. Now obviously at the end of episode 1 you may have seen that finishing was a problem for the team in terms of a weakness. Giroud is getting older. We are going to need a striker to replace him. I feel like this is a safe one. He's Italian. He has played in the league, obviously. He's a wonder kid from previous FM games, and he knows where the goal is when he's called upon. The next player to come in was Al Chadili Bichiabu, a young player who is a strong, tall defender, 6'5", strength of 16 at the age of 20. He looks like he could be an absolute beast, can play at left back, can play at centre back, can even be a makeshift DMC too. So it made a lot of sense to bring him in. The next player to come in was Peter Musa. He's another one that comes in a view to replace Olivier Giroud long term. He is a player who is very much like Giroud, 6'3", 16 strength, 17 finishing. I think he's a player that if we can get the ball up to him, he will score goals for the team. The next player to come in was Josip Stanisic. He's a player that I really like. I think he's a good player in real life as well. He can play anywhere across the back three, can also step into midfield, strong and dependable. I think he's a sound purchase and will probably be with me for the rest of the save. Next player to come in was Luca Lipani. He is a young Italian, which helps us with our registration for the squad. Can play as a defensive midfielder, can play as an orthodox midfielder. Good on the ball, good passing, jumping reach is good. He's 6'2". He's a strong player. He will do well in the centre of our park once he is fully developed. Wisdom Amay was the next player to come in. He's another Italian, which again helps with the squad registration rules. Can play anywhere across the back three, which is what we like, a bit of versatility in our defenders. Does have a bit of developing to do, but he is only 19 years old, so I think he's a sound purchase. I think we only paid around £2.5 million for him. And the final player to come in Season 2 was Serginho Dest, another one that can play as a left back or a right back, can move forward as a wing back, can even go further up the pitch to play as an attacking player too. He's one that would probably be a rotation option, but could force his way into the first team. Again, he was cheap, was on the transfer list for around about £6 million. We swooped in and picked him up as a safe bet. So that's all the transfers that were done, but there was one other bit of news, and that is concerning Olivier Giroud. So obviously at the end of episode 1, he had scored his 32 goals, was voted the best striker in Europe, and he decided that was his mic drop moment and it would be Olivier out. He decided he would call it a day, hang the boots up, go out on an absolute high, and I couldn't blame him one bit. So it meant that those strikers that we signed now have big boots to fill. So those are the players that are left, the players that have come in. The next thing to look at is how did we get on in the competitions. Our season would start off in the UEFA Super Cup playing against the Champions League winners Bayern Munich. We would beat them 1-0 to lift the UEFA Super Cup with a goal from Cade Cowell. In the Supercoppa Italiana, we would go up against Fiorentina, where we would lift that trophy by beating them 3-0. In the Coppa Italia, we would join the competition at the third round, where we would beat Pisa 4-1. In the quarterfinals, we would beat Juventus 1-0. In the semi-finals, we'd beat Atalanta, but it took penalties to get us over the line. And then in the final, we'd beat Inter Milan 2-1 to lift the Coppa Italia. In the Champions League, it was all changed. Gone is the group stage, in is the league phase. And in the league phase, we would finish in 18th place, having played 8 games. We would win 3, draw 3, lose 2, have a goal difference of 2, and we finished on 12 points. That was 3 points behind Paris Saint-Germain, who qualified automatically in 8th, and it was 7 points behind Atletico Madrid, who won the league phase. That would put us into a knockout playoff round, where we were drawn against Freiburg. Against all odds, we actually got knocked out. We lost 4-3 on aggregate and lost the second leg 4-1. That means that the big one for us this season was Serie A, and we would go on to win the league convincingly, scoring 101 points from 38 games. So from the 38 games, we had 32 wins, we would have 5 draws, and we would only taste defeat once. That was in a 3-2 loss to Napoli. We had 94 goal difference and 101 points. We had Leao finishing second in the league, but our top goal scorer with 19 goals. He had an average rating of 7.62 and Theo Hernandez 7.61. Chukwueze would get 15 assists. Leao would get 7 Player of the Match awards. Mainan would get 13 clean sheets. And yellow cards, Stanisic and Tomori would get 13 each. So, another fantastic season in Season 2 sees us win Serie A, the UEFA Super Cup, the Coppa Italia and the Supercoppa Italiana. Looking at the finances heading into Season 3, and it's a lot healthier than it was coming into Season 2. Starting us off with a transfer budget of 29.7 million. We have a wage budget of 2.1 and we are spending 1.9. So a little bit of room there in the wage budget to play with. A transfer budget that is decent, and if we move 1 or 2 players on, we could actually bump that up quite a bit, I think. We now have an overall balance of 103 million, which is a massive improvement on the 14 million we had going into Season 2. In terms of the club vision, let's have a look at how we have got on there. So for the actionable objectives, grow the club's reputation, pleased. Work within the wage budget, on course. Increase commercial revenue, pleased. In terms of the end of the current season, reach the Champions League proper, passed. Be competitive in the Super Cup, not judged, but we won. Challenge for the Serie A title, we won the league. Challenge for the Coppa Italia, we won that. And be competitive in the Supercoppa, which we also won. So the board this time have given us a B for our feedback, and our job security is secure, but they are still devastated that we haven't signed enough players under the age of 23 for the first team. In terms of the supporters, a C+ from them, so not as good this season. The culture, strive to make progress on and off the pitch, become the most reputable team in Italy, passed. Finish above Inter in the league, satisfied, which I'm not too sure about. We absolutely smashed the league. Inter were nowhere near us. Finish above Juventus in the league, pleased. The other notable highlights, pleased with the 8-1 win against Pisa, highly impressive 6-0 win against Torino, and the 2-1 Coppa Italia final against Inter. But they are disappointed with Bitshiabu's recent performances. So all in all, it's a good feedback from both the board and the supporters, and one going forwards that hopefully we can build upon. To round off Season 2, I'm going to look at what I think is my best 11 across the season. Starting off, looking in the tactics page, so you can see that we are still using the 4-3-3 that Milan would play in real life. And I would go with Mainan in goal, Hernandez, Tomori, Tior and Stanisic as a back 4, which I think is absolutely solid. Pobega, Loftus-Cheek and Ndor in a middle 3. Sharon Ndor has been fantastic this season. Leao on the left, Chukwueze on the right, and Lorenzo Luca at the top now that Giroud has decided to hang up his boots. I'll quickly show you Sharon Ndor. So he hasn't played as much football as you would think, but when he was given his chances, he played 11 times. He scored 3 goals. He had a 6.81 average rating, and he really is building into the team now. He's developing into that role in the middle of the park. On the left-hand side, you have Rafa Leao, obviously a star player, and he's another one that has performed well this season with 30 appearances, 19 goals, 7 assists, 7 Player of the Match awards, and a 7.62 average rating. Chukwueze again was rotating with Pulisic on the right-hand side. If we go into his stats, 36 games this season, 12 goals, 15 assists, 3 Player of the Match awards, and a 7.2 average rating. And then Lorenzo Luca and Musa were rotating at the top of the pitch, but he did chip in when required. 11 total appearances, 8 goals, 2 assists, 1 Player of the Match award, and a 7.18 average rating. So all in all, I think that is probably my best 11. If we go and inquire with our best 11 from our assistant manager. He goes with Milan in goal, Hernandez, Tomori, Tior, Stanisic, Pabega, Loftus-Cheek and Reinders in the middle, Leao, Okafor up top and Chukwueze. Okafor's an interesting one because he has been played as a rotation option for Leao and also with Pulisic when Chukwueze wasn't available. And then Reinders in the middle is not really my cup of tea as a player. I think that he might be one that's on the chopping block going forwards. I think we can get a better player in to replace him. And I think Sharon Dorr actually does a brilliant job in that role, as I keep saying. If we go and look at the assistant report then and look at some of the strengths and weaknesses. So overall depth, not a great deal of depth beyond the first team. That is probably a fair weakness. I think now that we have a £29 million transfer budget, we can start to plug gaps where we have them in the squad. Goals against, player struggling for form is Mateo Gabbia. And we've got corners, eccentricity. Close to half-time, conceded a lot of goals in the last 15 minutes of the half and goals against. But the strengths, jumping reach, kicking and communication for the goalkeepers, also command of area. Best player form, Rafael Leao has been in fantastic form with an average rating of 7.66 in his last 5 matches. He has been brilliant. Dribbling is positive and top goal scorer. Leao's 19 strikes had him second in the league. So that is a roundup of Season 2. We have been fantastic. We won the league in dominating form. Won the Super Cup, won the Coppa Italia, won the Super Coppa Italiana to go with it. So building blocks to go forwards. The Champions League is now the big goal. We have won the league twice, won the Super Cup, won the Cups. Champions League is the next one to tick off. Right then, if you're still with me at this point of the video, firstly, a big thank you. Secondly, if you could hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. Firstly, so you don't miss any of these other videos. If you hit the notification bell, you'll be released or notified when they are released. Check the rest of the channel before you go. There are other videos for FM24, such as Wonder Kids. There are hints, tips, tutorials. There are save ideas if you haven't already picked the team that you want to play as in FM24. There are FM23 videos. There's something for everybody on the channel. But for this one, I'm going to be leaving it there. Big thank you for watching. Hopefully I'll see you on the next episode of the Milan Save.